Alrighty, folks, welcome to episode 112, I think, of the Q&A. If you like the Q&As, remember to like the video, support the channel. Thank you. What are strength standards for weighted deficit push-ups for sets of 15 to 20? Are you serious, bro? Like, what are some good strength standards for reverse band, reverse grip, dumbbell Arnold presses? I don't know. Not enough people even do this movement. There's really not that many people that do calisthenics, and especially not like bigger enhanced people. I mean, you'd probably have to ask like a calisthenics specialist, honestly. Is it possible to train for waist reduction? So we can take this question super literally and be like, no, it's not possible. But I don't think what you're really asking is like, is it possible to shrink your hip bones? Because obviously the only real way to reduce your waist is to get leaner or drier. But if you train the TVA muscles with things like vacuums, it can improve your awareness of your midsection and your posture enough to make it look like you have a smaller waist. Assuming I am correct that most cable machines have a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning that the weight is half of what it actually says. When you add weight to a cable stack via the GymPin, how much weight does that add? Does it add the total weight you add, or does it add half? It adds half, man. And the reason why that's the case is because the simplest way to think about a 2-to-1 cable pulley ratio is that for every 2 feet that you're moving the handle or the implement that you're using, you're only moving the stack 1 foot. So just because you add external weight to the stack, you're not making it move more, so it's still half of what you're actually adding. What is the most calories you have ever eaten on a bulk? I assume you mean like consistently day in and day out, and not like what's the most I've ever eaten in one day, which I don't even know. But I don't actually track calories. I just manipulate my white rice content. But the highest I've ever had to take my white rice is 1,100 grams of uncooked jasmine white rice per day, which is 4,400 calories just from rice alone. So I was probably at 6.5 to 7,000 calories a day. Would it be better to train forearms on your upper day or on your lower day if you are on an upper-lower split? Honestly, I really don't think this matters. The only thing I can think of is that if you're doing some like really harsh grip work to train your forearms and you do that on your upper day, it might exhaust your grip for hinges the next day, even if you use straps. But really, you can just throw in a couple sets of forearms at the end of either session, and it's probably not going to have an impact on anything. So it doesn't matter. Is the standing overhead press ever worth doing over the seated version in a hypertrophy program? Well, if we're going to answer this question strictly on paper, no. And that is because a seated press is going to be significantly more stable, and almost everyone that I've ever heard of can do more weight for more reps when doing it seated, unless they are the type of person who does the standing overhead press as a standing incline press with tons of layback. But again, in the real world, maybe you just like to do the standing overhead press. A guy with a sumo deadlift profile picture asks me, what were your best natty sumo numbers? I did 605 pounds at 195 pounds with kilo competition plates, and I did 675 with straps on a deadlift bar at like 205 pounds. What are the best resources to learn about high intensity training? Honestly, there's really not that much to learn. Like, take your sets to failure. You won't have to do as much volume. The end. Like, I'm not being facetious. Like, if you know, how, for example, how to do Renaissance periodization style programming, it's the exact same fucking thing. You just take your sets to failure. That said, historically, the best places to learn something about it are going to be from Dorian Yates' training, from Mike Mentzer's training, and in terms of contemporary resources that actually put out educational content, you're going to be looking at Jordan Peters. Jordan Peters has tons of great content on high-intensity training, how to set up splits, what kind of volumes to use, etc. Historically, you can also look at somebody like Dante Trudell, who was one of Jordan Peters' biggest influences, as well as Dr. Scott Stevenson in any content that he has put out as well. Is it a sign of anything if your behind the neck press is weaker than your quote unquote regular press? Well, what's a regular press? I'm talking about the standing press. Is a regular press a seated press to the front? In either case, what ends up happening with both variations of a quote-unquote regular press is that you have some degree of incline because you can't vertically press, otherwise you'd hit yourself in the face or you'd have to push the bar out way around your face, etc. Whereas with a behind the neck press, it is truly a vertical press. There is almost no contribution from the upper pecs at all. You are pressing in a straight line vertically. It is all delt. Why are you doing more free weight movements, especially bent rows? Why no more Smith press? Because I want to. But that's not optimal. Guys, this is lifting weights. It's lifting weights. It's not rocket science. There's people with world records and championships that have IQs of like 80. Lift the weights. DC training has 3 different microcycles. So even though you're training every muscle group once every 4 to 5 days, you're only training each movement once every 2 weeks. Isn't that too infrequent? Well, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. DC is not a beginner's program. So oftentimes the 3 movements that you're picking are movements that you already have a history with. It's not for somebody new who needs to learn technique and get the basic neural adaptations down. So there's that. On top of that, DC is also a minimalist program. So if you're getting rid of, let's say, one of the rotations, I mean, there's no isolations in DC. So now you have 2 chest movements, 2 tricep movements, 2 shoulder movements. You're potentially going to completely miss out on certain segments of muscle growth. So leave it as it is. Alrighty, folks, that is the end of today's Q&A. Do I really have to do the ads? Damn, I guess I will. Okay, so if you like the Q&As, remember to like the video when it comes out on YouTube. If you'd like to become a more substantial of the Q&A, you can become a Patreon supporter for $1 a month. If you'd like to work with me directly for coaching, you can find my email in the description box on YouTube or just send me a DM on Instagram. For my ebooks, check out my bio on Instagram or the link in the description box on YouTube. Kind of a boring workout. It feels weird to say that, but like if I don't squat or deadlift on these full body sessions, they're just like kind of easy. So it was weird to not do either one of those things. Hopefully I'm firing on all cylinders on Monday and I can go for an all-time squat PR or at least pretty damn close. At least an all-time safety squat bar PR. Until then, folks, peace.